structure, the septic system elevation, has to do the northings and the eastings, but when they survey your structure, they are surveying the corners of your structure. Why are they doing that? Because for scenario B and C landowners, we are only releasing the human habitation restriction on the footprint of the structure. That's the foundation. That is all we're going to release below 534 is the footprint of that structure. The structure can stay there once the release is done. It's fine to be there. What does that mean? When we release the human habitation restriction on the footprint of the structure, that means you cannot make that structure any bigger. Can't go outside of the footprint of the structure. If something, Lord forbid, that structure is totally destroyed and you cannot do a remodel to fix it, you cannot rebuild that structure below 534. Okay?
Bullshit.
That is exactly what that means. Only below the 534. Above 534, that's a different story. There is no, once that piece is released, you can do what you want above 534. But below 534, if the structure is permanently destroyed, meaning it's gone, you cannot build back below 534. Okay? They also will include on your survey the main living floor elevation. They'll also include that as well. And we have a list of surveyors out there in the hall. I'm not recommending any of them. It's just they're ones that have done surveys for landowners already, and we put them on a piece of paper just so you have them if you want. Not recommending any of them, but they've done surveys in the area. You're going to have to provide a copy of your recorded deed, just like scenario A, title search if you had one done, signed right entry form. Again, you're going to submit everything to me. You submit everything to me. Oh yeah, thank you. I did forget. Scenario B and C, you also have to provide photos of the structure. I forgot all about that. Thank you, Jennifer. Structures that are B and C scenario, below 534, you do have to submit photos of the structure. Okay? And that's just, we keep those photos in our files, that when we do our every other year inspection of our flowage easement, if something looks like it's changed, we reference back to the photos. What happens once you submit your packages to me? What does Diane do? At that point, when I receive it, I review it, make sure everything's in there that needs to be in there. If it comes in the mail, I'll review it. Please, when you give me a package, include your phone number or an email address. Because if something's missing, the only way I can get back in touch with you is either by phone or email, or I have to do it through snail mail. So just make sure I've got that information. I'll review everything. Then I'll go out and I'll actually do a site visit. Why do I have to do a site visit? I do a site visit to ensure what you submitted me is for that lot that we're talking about. That's what I do that for. And to verify that everything on the survey matches what's out there. I'll identify any risk to human health and safety and how it's being mitigated. What you've said, how you're going to resolve that. By visiting the USGS site, by looking at our Facebook page, you know what elevation your road floods. I'll document all of that in my correspondence that I send from my office. Once I've got everything together and I've put my support documentation with your package, it will then leave me and go to Chris Boggs, who's the area manager. He will review it. And then he will forward it to the Chief of Operations in the Louisville District. The Chief of Operations will verify everything's there, then they will send it to Miss Jennifer in real estate with the Louisville District Office. Then Miss Jennifer begins her magic. And once she gets the entire package, she'll review it. She will obtain any missing info if there is any. Hopefully there's none by the time it gets to her. They will look at survey data. That will go to our chief surveyor in our real estate division. He'll review it, make sure the survey is accurate, what we need. And surveyors are great. We have briefed all the surveyors that are in our area that we know of. They understand what they have to do when they do a survey for the landowners. The Louisville District Office of Council will prepare a deed and obtain landowners' signatures on that deed. Now, when I say they're preparing a deed, they're preparing a deed of flowage easement deed. That's going to be tied to your lot. Is that correct? Okay. Real estate will forward the partially signed deed through the Corps of Engineers division, headquarters, and then from headquarters, it's going to go to the chief of real estate who will sign that deed, and then it will work its way back down to our district where the deed will be recorded in the respective courthouses, and then you will be provided with copies. So you're going to see it before it ever leaves the Louisville district. It's going to come to you for signature and review. You'll send it back to them, and then from there, it will go to the Lakes and Rivers Division in Cincinnati, their real estate branch. From there, it will go to Washington, D.C., to the Corps of Engineers and Real Estate, who will sign the deed, and it will come back down through the system and back to us, and for recording. One thing that the last group asked is, okay, how do we know you got my package? When I send the package up through my chain of command and it makes it to Miss Jennifer is going to raise your hand, Jennifer. Miss Jennifer will send you a correspondence letter advising you that she received your package and that they're reviewing everything. And if there is anything missing or they have any issues with what you submitted, you will be hearing from her. But that way you will know at least your package is moving. Okay? Those of you that have already submitted packages to me, I have them working on it. I'm processing as fast as I can. We just got authority to move forward again with our packages again. And of course, you know what's going on right now. It's been the rec season. We're a little busy at Rough River Lake. So I'm going to start rolling those packages out again. So if you've submitted packages already, don't feel like you've got to do another package. You do not. If you have already maybe you bought your property, you didn't if let's say you are the person who bought the property from installed the septic system and has the health department document where it was installed, that's all you need. You don't need to contact the health department again. You've already got what you need to submit. Okay? If you're in doubt, call me. I'll be glad to meet with you in person, on site, at the office, or walk you through it again. Also, we do have checklists available for all of you back there in the back, or actually outside in the lobby. You can pick that up when you leave. Just remember, I'm here to help you through this. My staff is here to help you all through this. If you have questions outside of this meeting, maybe when you get home, you go, oh man, I didn't ask that. Just come see me or call me or send an email. My card's out there. I will get back with you and answer any questions. What I would like to do right now is, yes, thank you. This whole presentation is going to be uploaded to this website, which is our district website. That's also on my business card. So you'll be able to print this out if you want it. Also, frequently asked questions is also available out there. You're more than welcome to review. The plan, the encroachment resolution plan is also available online, or we've got several copies out here. Grab it, take it. That concludes my presentation. Now it's question and answer time. Also, just one more thing. For those of you that just got the notification, you're part of the most recent survey. and you don't have a copy of your aerial photo yet, the fellows are out in the lobby, and they can provide a copy of that to you. If you were identified as having a hazardous structure encroachment, they've got those aerial images. If you are a non-encroacher, but you also got a letter about flowage easement, that letter was just to tell you that you do have easement on your property, and what they will do is get your name and your address, and email address or phone number, and you will get a copy of your aerial photo of your property to you that identifies flowage easement. Okay? Go ahead, sir.
I have never been notified since 2017 when I was here for that meeting, and it's about the way the day before, most of the day before. Anyway, I wouldn't even have known about this meeting if my son had seen it on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook or email or none of that.
Yeah, and that is a problem when it comes to public meetings like this. We do what's called news releases. We send it out to the entire area and wherever Todd is back there. We send it out to all the local media, news, newspaper. It goes out to all of them. We put it on Facebook. We can't make the media print the news releases. I'm sorry, I wish I could, but we can't. So our only avenue at that point is Facebook. We do put it on our district website, and I know that's a problem. I completely understand. The letters that went out, we sent letters out when we did it back in 2017 to all the landowners that we knew who had encroachments. They got letters. This year, the letters went to only the people that were impacted by the 17-18 survey. So past landowners, the only way they had to find out about this meeting was unfortunately social media or the newspaper.
But we'll look into that to figure out, because you're right. If you received that back in 2017 and you weren't part of the new group, then there was no way. So let me just take that back to the team and try to figure out how we can make sure that we keep everyone informed of how, when we have such notices, or if there's updated information that we know about.
The board didn't even touch my place.
No.
I've been down there 25 years.
527.4 was as high as we got in 2011. I wish I could tell you that mattered. It doesn't. It's the easement, the flowage easement is what the Corps of Engineers acquired in the 50s and what they bought in the 50s, and that easement is very, very restricted.
But they've done a straight line survey.
Yes.
Instead of a corner.
Correct.
Which,
And that is how they acquired it. They acquired it on a
I'm
straight
going to
line
throw his name in
survey.
there, Mr. Charlie Corbett, who is president of our Kentucky Home Builders, which I'm a member of that and local. And he's done a lot besides McConnell and Grand Paul to help this.
Yes, it is.
So now they're being on a fixed income, it's a lot of money to pay even for a survey.
But praise be at least that the admin fee went away. And so I'm glad you brought up surveys. Something I did not mention is the surveyors are way behind schedule. I mean, way behind, and you're laughing, Some of them, they said it could be a year before they get around to doing your survey.
I turned mine down after a year.
Yeah, and that's okay. From my standpoint, if you tell me you are working on your resolution, I'm marking on my spreadsheet as working on it. It is out of your control how long it takes the health department to get around and doing your inspection, how long it takes a surveyor to get around and doing your survey. I will tell you the surveyors that we've been working with anyway have said that when a landowner in subdivision A comes to them and says, I need this survey for this flowage easement, what they have been doing, what they told us they've been doing, is they may set your request aside, and when some more come in that subdivision, then they do them. The reason they're doing that, now mind you, this is hearsay, this is just what they told me. The reason they are doing that is to try and help you out by keeping the survey costs down. The more they have to do in each area, not just necessarily your subdivision, but maybe in that area, the cheaper they can do it for. Because it requires less time on their part. They can do several at one time.
Let me clear up something, or make it clear to me. If
You're about to speak into the mic, sir.
if the Yeah. If the flowage easement on my property is above 534, you're telling me I can build above 534 even though it's still within the flowage easement?
Once you get, you will have to request that the easement restrictions be removed from that easement area. You have to do that, otherwise, no, you cannot.
Okay. And the areas that the easement is down to, flowage easement is down to 521 and 522, does any of this affect those areas?
No, it does not.
They can do whatever they want then?
We have no authority except for where we have an easement.
Okay. And there's no plans to buy any of those easements in those low lying areas?
Not at this time.
Okay.
You said you were going to issue these flowage easement deeds for people that have encroachments. So if you have a piece of property that does not have an encroachment on it, are you still going to issue deeds for those also?
Yes.
So everyone will get an encroachment deed?
Everyone that makes a request, even if there's nothing on their parcel, but they have flowage easement way above that, or just above that 534 elevation, and they make a request and provide all the documentation needed, non-encroachers have to provide everything just like an A encroacher does. The only difference is there won't be any structures on it. That's the only difference. We will do the release above 534 of the restrictions. Did that answer your question? Did that answer your question? You look a little puzzled.
Well, I was just thinking, because like, we've already got all the paperwork, or above that, so I was just wondering if you were still going to issue a deed for your line on that property, even though it's not encroaching?
No, you don't have an encroachment, but the flowage easement is above the 534 on your piece of property.
Yeah.
You don't plan on making a request to release it, because you don't want to do a survey and so forth? No, we will not.
Okay.
So if you're not involved in it at all, you don't have to do anything?
Correct. If you're a non-encroacher, you don't have any structures, you don't have anything on the easement area above 534 on your piece of property, you don't have to do anything. That's your choice. Yeah, but just keep in mind that restriction still holds true to your area. So you won't be able to build a structure on there. Now, with me saying that, let me clarify what I'm talking about. Some people maybe just have a gazebo. Or maybe they just have a picnic platform. Or maybe they just have a pole barn type garage, something to park their boat under.
Deck on stilts?
A deck that's just encroaching on flowage easement. For those type of instances, we can do what's called a consent to easement. For those are very easy to do. You don't have to do any surveys to get those processed. You have to take photos of the structures, give me the dimensions, submit all of that to me, and we do a simple consent to easement. It doesn't cost you anything. Real estate will mail you a legal document that talks about that structure and what it is and the dimensions, and they'll give you a little silver tag to put on it. You're done. If you don't want to go through the release of the flowage easement restrictions. However, if you have a habitable structure, you are going to have to go through this process. And if it's a garage that's got electric and water, concrete floor, insulated, it has the potential of being a habitable structure, you have to go through this process. Okay?
It's bigger than what it is. It's not a habit.
Take a picture of it, give it to me. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Let's get that microphone. I'm sorry, John, I keep forgetting my mic.
Yeah, you gotta put up to your mic.
We don't want to go, actually, you know, you got myself, my sister, and my mother, we're all on the same one. And we said all the factors together, and we got them, well, my sister and I both got a gateway, thing we were just talking about, we had to
Yes.
What if we want to extend that out? What do we do?
You will have to make another request to.
We didn't really make a request, it just showed up.
Well, what we did when you submitted your package, you gave us the dimensions of the deck, and the deck was below the 534. So we wanted to keep you in scenario A. So with the deck, we did consent to easement. Yes, you didn't give me anything, but if you want to extend that deck, you just need to give me the dimensions and everything. I'll send it to real estate, and they'll modify the record. Really easy to take care of.
All right. Well, I think it's exactly the same situation we are. We have a teeny little corner that's over the line. And she does this, she's got a deck out front, and she got another.
Well, if the survey may not have included her deck piece, the measurements, before I can send anything forward, I have to know how big the deck is. And that may be what I was lacking.
All right, I'll look at them. I'll look at them.
Okay.
Maybe I'll send them another.
Yeah, or just give me a call and I'll clean your package and we'll look at it together.
All right.
The highest I see on that.
You're a representative.
For us to have received any letters or exempt, do we still say?
What does the letter say? He received a letter that said we corrected a closure error when they did the survey, when we had it surveyed, and when they did that closure error correction, you are no longer encroaching on flowage easement because that shifted the line down. So you do not have to do anything.
What's the elevation top of the dam?
555.
So if you're in one of these situations where you have a house that, say, a year ago was worth, pick a number, $300,000, and then you go redraw all the lines, and now you've got something that's effectively worthless, where they could put a mobile home on it. So you take a $300,000 house, which is now a $20,000 lot that couldn't ever be rebuilt. Is there any kind of compensation for the loss of value to our properties?
No, the key thing to understand is there was no redrawing of the lines. The deed had been recorded in the courthouse since the 50s. When the government acquired these easements, those easements were acquired.
So I'm just trying to understand why you've used the term shifted the lines like 8 times since the beginning of this. Like, because clearly these houses were all permitted to be put where they were. I mean, we went through a process to build all these houses. These weren't just like, hey, we erected huts. There's processes that we went through to build all this. Permits. Every single one of these septic systems was approved when it was put in. Every single one of these plots was approved when it was put in.
If your septic system, if you have the document from the health department that says that it's an approved septic system, when it was installed, you don't need to call them again, have them come back out and look at it. You just submit that document.
Right, but that's not the point, though, is that, like, that we could not have built these houses
You could have.
without approval. Well,
You
we
could
could have
have.
illegally,
You could
yeah,
have.
There's
but
no zoning here.
Right, and
So-
that's the problem. There was no zoning, so when these areas or tracts were acquired, how they were acquired, in some instances, the information, and she presented it to you earlier, that said that there was nothing that had the information in there that talked about the 534. So because of that, and because it was not in there, that could have been missed. And it's not as if someone did it purposefully, but because of the flood that happened in 2011, it identified that there were some errors that were actually done, or not, it was not done properly. So what we've done since that time is try to ensure in redoing the survey to make sure that that survey area has been surveyed properly. And that's what
so we're correcting an
It
error that
corrects
was made 50 years ago, and it's
not
costing us
correct, it's just
$1,000.
identifying that.
Let's let James.
Okay,
Let's let
I'm just-
James answer.
Yeah, all right.
right.
Because something's changed, clearly.
No, what the issue is, and to explain it here from my experience, what should have happened, that did not happen in this case. I've done many of those surveys on other lakes. They've had a flowage easement. Your bank would have got a loan. You would have asked for it, and they would have requested a survey. That should have happened before you built, so you'd have known to stay out of it. That did not happen in this case, because your lender was unaware of the easement. See what happened here? When I'm talking about that, the lines have not changed. They were put in the deeds, they were recorded in the 50s, and that is public record. But it was not passed down in your title.
Where were they recorded in the fifties?
In the public courthouse.
They were recorded.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. They are recorded. They are recorded in the respective.
In every acquisition, the 400 tracts that the county, that we made, were recorded at the county courthouse, that the government took and made their acquisitions. It was the responsibility, where she talks about the tracts of all those farmlands, when they passed title on, they should disclose that to you. That part did not happen.
As it got subdivided.
How's that our problem?
We didn't purchase it from a farmer, we purchased it from attorneys. The whole subdivision.
As it got
was purchased from
subdivided.
attorneys.
And that's where the problem is, honestly, folks. I wish I could give you a simple answer that would make it 100% all our fault. I wish I could, but I can't. Unfortunately, in the state of Kentucky, unfortunately, when these large tracts were subdivided, the individual or individuals that subdivided these large tracts of land did not do their due diligence, because they were not required to do so, take these individual lots that all are impacted by this legal binding deeded flowage easement that the government has that's very restrictive. They did not attach that to those individual lots. This was hard for me, coming from Missouri, to believe.
From Tennessee, I've never seen this.
Yeah, it was hard for me to understand coming here, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Those of you, maybe not in here, that dealt with me following the 2011 flood, Diane had zero sympathy for you. Why? Because I come from Missouri. In Missouri, if tracts are subdivided up and there's an easement on it, that easement is required by law to be on those individual deeds. In Kentucky, what I learned is it is not, which is how we ended up in this mess, a big part of this mess. The other issue was when landowners, and I'm sorry that this happened, I can't fix it, but when a landowner would call and ask to have their yellow line surveyed, the surveyor surveyed 534. That is not the deeded flowage easement. They just came out and did an elevation survey for you. They did not survey the deeded flowage easement. I'm sorry. I wish I could fix it, but there is nothing I can do. Those deeds are recorded, and they are recorded in both county seats. For this group, it's primarily Grayson and Breckinridge County. To find them, you actually do need the tract number. And it does require some digging. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. It does require some digging to find them, because you've got to know where the track is. You've got to sit down at the courthouse and go, okay, here's my piece of property. What tract was it originally part of? You've got to go back through the history of your property to find that easement. Or what you can do, if you want a copy of the recorded deed of the flowage easement that impacts your property, call me. I'll gladly send you one.
Back in the day, the Corps allowed all these neighborhoods to be built.
The Corps did not allow all of these neighborhoods to be built. We do not have authority to.
How do you know?
Well, I can speak on behalf of the Corps of
How do you
Engineers.
know what happened back in the 50s?
But what we can say is that it's not an authorization that is given to the Corps of Engineers.
Well, the
It is
Corps of
not the
Engineers didn't do their
responsibility.
due diligence
Sir,
back
can
in
you
the
please
50s.
can you
to
please let
allow
me
what
talk?
happened-
Can you
what's
please let me
happening
talk?
now. They're trying to enforce laws now when they should have been enforced back in the 50s. You're shaking your head no.
I'm shaking my head to say that you asked the question and I'm trying to answer it for you, but I'm not going to answer a question by trying to talk over you. So either you're going to let me talk or I'm going to let you
I'm not
talk.
talking.
Okay. In the history of the Corps of Engineers, it is not our authorization to actually grant permission for people to actually build a subdivision. That's not a responsibility of the Corps of Engineers. Our responsibility is to make sure that we actually maintain the lakes or the areas that are around that we're doing for flood risk management. And that's what the responsibility of the Corps of Engineers is for. So when it comes to saying that a subdivision can be put into an area, that deals with the local and the state government. It has nothing to do with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Our whole subdivision is below the flowage easement. So nobody back in the 50s did their due diligence with your Corps of Engineers and allowed that whole subdivision to be built, the developer to build it. So, you know, how we've been held responsible in 2019 when all that happened back in 1950, whatever.
In the 1950s, as was stated in the presentation that was provided to you, this was all farmland. So because of the fact that it was farmland during that time frame, they identified how it was supposed to be kept. Now, since that time, and because of now that there is actually homes and things in this particular area, it has been stated also in here, is that as land was purchased, it was purchased by tracts. So in it being purchased by tracts, there was some information that should have been put in there in what was the flowage easement. That was not put in there. So if you want to hold the Corps responsible for it not being put in there, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a viable rationale to say that we should have been there to make sure that, hey, this is a tract, and so Corps should have said, wait, no, you can't do that. But if it's in the courthouse and stated that this is the flowage easement to be around this particular location.
That's not anybody's deeds in this room.
It clearly stated that after 30 years, that information is not in there. She also stated to you that in order for you to actually find the tract, how difficult it is to do. It's an unfortunate situation.
So you're free willing to put laws on us and subject us to all these hurdles and deeds and restrictions at this point.
Sir, I'm not sure that we have put any law, there's no law that we have changed.
Yeah.
There's no law that we have
But you
changed.
didn't do your due diligence back in the day, but now you're trying to do it 50, 60 years later.
We're trying to correct an error, but what was actually found
At our
due
expense,
to the
at everybody in this room's expense, but not at the government's expense. The government is for the people, by the people.
I'm not the government. I
But
work
yes, you
for
are
the
the
government.
government.
I work for the government, but I am not the government.
Yeah.
And the great place for you to actually, just if you've done before or been a part of, if there is something that you have found that you don't like or you think is unfair, you have a means of being able to identify that and send it for it to be considered. Once those things are done, just like the change has come for how we do administrative fees, if they find that is a true and fair,
Luckily, we got.
are you gonna let me finish?
Yeah.
Okay. Just if you have found that in those instances where they found that they didn't think that it was the right measure that should have been taken, then a corrective action was made. So I say for all of you, if there's something that you feel is unfair from the government, then you use the voice that you have to provide it to the proper individuals so that they can work to actually make that fair. We're not here to change, we can't change law as the Army Corps of Engineers. Our only thing is to be able to implement what is given to us. So what you saw in 2017 and what we were being told that we had to do, a group of individuals to include a different commander came out and said, look, it's not up to us. If it was up to us, you wouldn't have this problem. You wouldn't have to do this. But we have been mandated to actually make sure that we're doing what is required.